Hello, Ryan Garland. I am your host of the Paradigm Shift. I cannot wait to expose the true inner depths of institutional wealth building and how to dig deep into real estate investing. Hey everybody, Ryan Garland here, founder and chairman of Paradyme. I want to thank you guys for joining us today. As you know, I like to bring on very special guests, and to me, this is a very special guest. This is going to be a little bit of a shift in our strategy because most of my audience and my platform really knows I focus on really kind of the real estate development and educational piece, talk a little bit about my personal life and what have you, but we're going to do something a little bit different. And the reason is because since we are so invested here in Lake Havasu, I think one of the most important things is to share with the audience, along with the community, where the city is going. And so today we are honored to have Cal Sheehy, our current mayor. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And really what we're going to do, and I want to just kind of start this out because I know a lot of people are going to want to make sure that I'm not one-sided or another, right? I think the main objective is for you to share a little bit about your story, what your vision is with the city, where you want to go. You know, you've been a part of the political environment for a long time. You kind of know where the bodies are buried, if you will. But I really want the community to get to know you even further. And our audience is pretty big, and we spend the money to get this type of audio and podcast platform to be known. And because we have $200 million in projects right here in Lake Havasu, I think it's really important that people understand why it is we continue to go that heavy in investments. So let's kind of dive right in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. Share a little bit about your background, just kind of, where you came from, how long you've been here, just an overall global overview of you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a longtime Lake Havasu City resident, graduated from Lake Havasu High School. I started...
What year was that?
It was 1998. Yeah, so my mom, originally was born in northern Michigan. My mom decided after one winter that she just couldn't take that anymore.
Sure.
And she decided that she was going to take us somewhere warmer. My grandparents moved to Lake Havasu in 1979, so it was perfect to move out here. So
this is the spot.
It is, and it would be the place that she could be close to her mom.
Sure.
And so we moved out here in 1995, my sophomore year of high school. Finished high school. I decided I was going to work at London Bridge Resort, and so I got a job there when I turned 16. Back in those days, you had to be 16 to get a job. Just this year, I've celebrated my 30th year working for the
congratulations.
ownership group. Yes, thank you. Started there as a housekeeper. Then I worked bell service and then front desk and reservations and kind of all over the property.
So you know every nook and cranny of that space.
Every nook and cranny, yes. And then at the time I was graduating high school, the owner bought resorts all over the country. And so he sent me on the road to help set up the front office operations at the new resorts so they could come on board with the guidelines of his new resort company. And eventually he put me in charge of the Daytona Beach Regency in Daytona Beach, Florida. So I did that for about 3 or 4 years before he moved me back out here in 2004 to assume my current role as the vice president and general manager at London Bridge Resort. But I'm motivated by community. I'm motivated by Lake Havasu. This is my home. My family lives here. I enjoy all of the things Lake Havasu has to offer. Off-roading and going out on the lake and hiking. I also love the location. It's so close to Vegas and Scottsdale and Phoenix. And
it's far enough away to get away.
It is. Yeah. And you can really just see so many different things. And, I love the outdoors and love to be a part of it. So
yeah. This community has just been wonderful to me. For example, and just for my audience to know, I've really lived here, I think going on 3 years full time. I've had houses here and there, but really kind of full time the last 3 years. We kind of shifted our strategy when the pandemic hit. I mean, things in California just really got different for us. And so as a firm and kind of what we're doing as far as how we're operating our business. And so we decided to kind of shift between here and Nashville. And so as you know, I go back and forth now. 50% of my time or so is in Nashville, but I've been coming out here my whole life. My father retired LA County Sheriff. He lives here as well. My father and I are very close. My father actually raised me, so him and I are close. And my son actually is working out behind us as we speak. So he's here. He met you.
Yes.
But it's just got a special place, and I raised all 3 of my kids coming out here and I fell in love with the community and the town. And there's just something very special about this place. Hence the reason to have you on here. I think it's important that everyone gets to see where you're taking this place, you know, and so just a little background on me, but, and why I'm so in love with it. We just kind of, my heart again is here and I just want to do everything I can to help the community as well. So I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. So I want to kind of go into some sort of, I'm going to go over to like some sort of what we call fact check, right? Okay. And I know some people want to hear some of those hard questions, right? Just get right to this. And I think it's important that people know kind of how we strategically put this together. So we utilize a lot of AI. We scrub every platform, as you can imagine. That's the same data tracking system that we use for migration, investor spending habits, baby boomers, healthcare, where the stock market's kind of going. We kind of foresee certain things before it happens, some political environment adjustments and shifts where money's being moved to, private equity. We're very strategic in our business. So what we did is we implemented those practices to kind of get to know you a little bit more. And we're going to do that with the other candidate as well. So we're going to kind of just put it all on the table, just lay it on thick, right?
Great.
So here we go. So, and I actually was kind of impressed. I'll be honest with you. I was looking for some more negativity because everything is negative for me on social media. If you go to like some of the other platforms, everyone says bad things about me, but it doesn't sound like you kind of have that reputation. So here we go. So I thought this was kind of neat. It said eight straight balanced budgets. That was actually verified. So again, this is AI that we're pulling together to verify certain things that you've stated or that you would highlight as a something that you've successfully been able to do as mayor or being a part of the political system here in Havasu. And so that was verified. It said first ever AAA credit rating confirmed, 22 million in savings from a bond refinance confirmed, 5.7 million returned to taxpayers via IDD, particularly confirmed. So it says ultimately it's confirmed. No property tax rate increase, confirmed. No debt, confirmed. Chairman of Mojave County Water, confirmed. 3.5 million state funding for second bridge, confirmed. Says construction to start in January of 27. Right now it's showing that, that's what everything was mentioning, and it kind of seems to be on track. Says design is 60% complete. There's nothing to verify that. We couldn't track that. America's Best Communities, 2 million prize, confirmed. Vision 2020 Citizens-Led Economic Plan, confirmed. Arizona Tourism Hall of Fame 2025, confirmed. And this is one thing I wanted to kind of, bring it to your attention. This is the one thing it says unverified. It says hotel manager seeking a $355,000 taxpayer fund for some sort of state trust fund.
Yeah, so the channel bathrooms, or the channel in Lake Havasu City, is a really popular place for people to go. On the Western Bank, there are city-owned bathrooms. And in our CIP, or our capital improvement plan with Lake Havasu City, we have money in the budget to do bathrooms on the Eastern Bank, so the mainland side.
Yep, they're by the bridge.
Correct.
Bridge side.
And so the London Bridge Resort, which I manage, has a state lease or state trust land lease with the state of Arizona for the golf course portion. And so the resort is working in conjunction with Arizona State Trust Lands and the city to be able to dedicate a portion of that lease to put bathrooms in the channel using the money that we have allocated in our CIP budget.
Yeah, that would be definitely nice. Because I'm always, when I come and I boat, I always go on the island side because the bathrooms are over there.
Yeah, you see, the first things you get in the morning is you see all the boats lined up on the island side. And right next to the restrooms. Yep. And so it'd be great to have it on the mainland side. But not only for the boaters, there's hundreds and hundreds of walkers and runners and users of that trail system that want a bathroom.
And I feel like that side's a little busier than the island side. It's just easier to get to for everybody.
It is, it connects from the London Bridge all the way through Rotary Park. And it's just a great, couple mile loop for people to run or walk or connect with their family. So there's lots of users that use that area and really would like to have some nice bathrooms.
Yeah, let's move on to some bathrooms.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Cal. So one of the things too that, a lot of people have presented to me, and there's so much negativity online, about some of the things in your past, a drag show, this is the elephant in the room, but the drag show that apparently took place, some of the things that have been said about you has been, you've funded it, you supported it, you funded it. And then you were, kind of allowing children to be a part of it or something of that nature. I don't know quite a bit. This is someone that wanted me to ask you about it. Do you want to talk a little bit? Because I think that's one of the things that I've witnessed is that's the only real negative thing I've heard about you. And since we have you on the podcast, I want to give you the opportunity to speak on that, whether it's true, not true, but I think it is important for our community to know who our mayor is. So
Absolutely.
please, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that opportunity. So I'm going to answer that question in two ways, since I have two roles here. So I'll start as the vice president and general manager of London Bridge Resort. And this is where it stems from. In 2021, my sales team at the resort booked a drag show that wanted to book a venue where we didn't produce it, we didn't host it. Basically, they booked a venue in our facility. The show went off, no issues, no feedback from the community. The next year, they rebooked, and at that time, the rhetoric from a national standpoint had shifted, and the community started to have some pushback because they marketed it the same way they marketed it the year before, which were all ages were welcome. As soon as I learned that was what the case was, there was nothing in the contract that could prevent us from doing that. But we obviously understood the concern. We took that concern and we were able to adjust the contract for subsequent years that you had to be 21 or older to be there. That was really the resort's perspective. The resort rents venues, space for weddings and events and social gatherings. And it was just one of those areas. As soon as we got feedback from the community, we addressed it as best we could. From the city's perspective, it was in a private venue. It was not funded by Lake Havasu City. There was no local funding that occurred.
Yeah, one of the questions, someone wanted me to ask was, there was controversy about you using city money to have that paid for or what have you, but it sounds like this was completely separate. I mean, this is not even, you had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, no, I had nothing to do with actually on either side of it. I mean, it's not an event that Lake Havasu City would need to do an event permit for. We didn't use any Lake Havasu City funds to promote it or bring it here or try to recruit them here or attract them. None of those things. That was completely separate. But from the perspective of the mayor's office, I support everybody's constitutional rights. And, folks have the opportunity for freedom of expression, freedom of speech. I'm going to support your constitutional rights, whether I agree with them or not. I'm always going to create those opportunities for all residents to enjoy their constitutional rights, which in this case, it's not unlawful to have a drag show. It is a protected form of expression in the Constitution, freedom of speech. The city did not invest any money in that. I did have to, after that occurred, there was really kind of an uproar within our community where there was a point where a nationally syndicated podcast picked up the story and called me a pedophile and really was creating an unhealthy situation for my family. And it was not very safe. We were getting death threats, and so I had to make moves to get that content removed. I mean, those accusations completely false.
In a small town like this, that's very right leaning. Yeah, it's a whole nother level.
So harmful. Yeah. And the most of the threats weren't coming from local folks; they were coming from people outside of the community. But that is such a heinous crime that if that's on somebody's heart, that you need to rid the world of people that do crimes against children. And I'm being accused of that. It really puts my family in a really
for sure.
hard safety challenge. So we did have to get that content removed, and so we had to get lawyers involved. But all that was paid for out of my pocket. None of that, no city dollars were used to do that, but we successfully got the content down. The allegations were completely false, but we're just a venue at London Bridge Resort that rented a space, and we got caught up in a culture war that we never intended to be a part of. We were just trying to allow things to occur that people wanted to be a part of.
Sure.
So and for my personal involvement, I have teams of folks that do these things. I don't sell event space, and I'm just not involved.
So in essence, you had no idea about it.
Not until it became an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it just is, I don't know.
I can see that.
What, if, Mr. and Mrs. Smith are getting married this weekend, I'm not involved until I hear from my sales team that Mr. and Mrs. Smith are getting married this weekend.
Yeah.
So
great. Yeah. That was one thing that, so controversial, and just, a lot of that negativity that I was seeing online. And I think that's just so important that you clear the air if that's the case,
Yes.
And hear from you directly. I don't know how much you've been able to, share your side of the story. But I will tell you that I've heard that same story that you just told me for a couple other sources too that are very close to the London Bridge Resort. And I thought that it was just something important that we'd bring up because again, this is just asking the hard questions and giving everybody the ability to speak, just like you said, the constitutional right.
Yeah. No,
so
I appreciate it. Yeah. The other challenge sometimes folks get is, I don't own London Bridge Resort. I'm an employee. So I work for the owner, but I serve at the pleasure of the owner. I'm an employee that goes to work just like anyone else goes to work every day. And sometimes there's that false narrative that I own the resort and I'm personally benefiting from these types of activities that occur. I don't own it. I don't have a personal benefit from that perspective.
Well, perfect. Thank you very much for sharing that. All right, so let's move on to the next piece. Yeah. Moved to Lake Havasu from Michigan at 15. It says unverified. I think just ultimately it's hard to get the data from, I'm not saying you're old, but 100 years ago.
Sure, yes.
And then even it's hard to verify your age. So believe it or not, I'm kind of surprised we can't grab that age. The other thing it did say, and it was unverified, is that you have an MBA for University of Phoenix. Yeah,
I have a bachelor's in business marketing and also a master's in business administration, both from the University of Phoenix. That was in 2007 was my bachelor's, and then 2009 was my master's. But back in those days, that was before all of the mainstream campuses were doing online programming. So there were very few options to have here in Lake Havasu. And it was before we had a lot of higher education opportunities, both online or in person. So I do have both a bachelor's and a master's from the University of Phoenix.
It's actually easier to verify. You actually have to pay to verify that, though.
You do?
Yeah, we do that for when we employ people. We actually have to pay to verify their actual education. Wow. So that's one of the reasons why it's unable to scrub it. So it just doesn't have any real sources to verify, what your education level is or what college you're into. Okay, VP GM of London Bridge Resort, verified. Lake Havasu population, approximately 60,000. You just stated that in in probably one of your speeches. That's confirmed. STR reform failed for the fourth consecutive year in 2026. Yes. And it says it confirmed, but what's that mean ultimately?
Yes, those are short-term rentals. So in 2016, the state law changed where it preempted cities and towns from doing anything to manage short-term rentals within their communities. Subsequently, in different legislative sessions, we would get bills passed to help give cities and towns the tools to help manage short-term rentals. And we've been working for the last 4 years on one last component, and that's really to address the bad actors, people that are just not managing their properties well and are impacting neighborhoods. We've been trying to get some additional tools, and we were unsuccessful again this legislative session, but we're moving the needle and we're getting closer to the opportunity to have local control. I truly believe in local government, and government closest to the people is the most effective. And this is just one more step on the short-term rentals for us to have that local control.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, just to kind of give you an idea, on the Barn Caves project that we're building, the majority of our buyers that are already kind of in line to pick those up, they were really worried about the STR stuff. That has been a conversation piece for a long time on our side, and I won't go too far into it, but I can see where there's a lot of controversy on that. It's very hard to deal with.
Yeah, short-term rentals has been something that Lake Havasu's had since the 1970s. We're not looking to get rid of it or change it. We're just looking to be able to allow the neighborhoods to be managed correctly so that everybody can have peaceful enjoyment of their property.
So when people come out, they don't party and get crazy. And I tell everybody all the time, when you come out and you go drinking on the water, something's it's too hot to be drinking that much. You go home and people just party and beat up that stuff and piss off the neighbors. And I think that's really where it all stems from.
Exactly. All we're trying to do is prevent a little bit of that so all the neighbors can get along.
I would agree. We had a house out here and we did short-term rentals, and it got to a point where it was too much for us to manage. Other markets, it's really good. In some cases, it depends on the environment. But out here, it's really difficult. It's a unique environment. Everything about Havasu is unique. It's just not normal like everything else. So I can be the very first one to verify that on the development side too. But all right, thank you for that answer. All right, we'll move on. So I actually thought this was really, these next two, I really appreciated this just personally. 20 million community health center, 100 plus jobs, 4 operating rooms confirmed. I think that's a great thing for the city. 40% of the firefighters workforce eligible to retire in 2025 and 2030. That was stated by the fire chief as well.
Yes.
And that's obviously a first responder, my family. So they're kind of close to my heart. So, okay, great. So those are some of the facts that we wanted to pull up. And I thought that was really impressive, just to be honest with you.
Thank you.
And I do want to just kind of state this. Again, this is more of an interview, but I'm also not going to pull pull punches. I'm going to tell you how what's close to me, because obviously I have a vested interest here. So if I see that you're doing great, I'm going to say I love it. If I think it's crap, I'm going to say it too, right?
Yes.
Just to be honest.
Yeah.
So so let's talk about what everyone else wants to talk about, which is infrastructure.
Yes.
And I was in the city meeting last week, right? And it was because we were looking for one of our projects to get approved. And lo and behold, we got pulled into the conversation about the budget, right? And really the infrastructure and the budget. And I didn't know all of the things that were kind of going on, you know, in the city, and it was kind of a big eye opener for me. We're going to talk about water. We're going to talk about the airport. We're going to talk about that. Let's just talk about kind of the infrastructure just of Lake Havasu. You can give a little background, kind of what you see as being a problem and what we're doing to try to fix it. And then we'll just drill down into the weeds on that. But I just want you to kind of give a little global overview, and then we'll just kind of drill down as we go.
Sure. Yeah. So Lake Havasu City is actually a fairly young community. We incorporated in 1978. We're a master planned community, but we've built out our infrastructure. So our sewer capacity is outbuilt. So we have plenty of capacity when it comes to sewer. We have plenty of capacity when it comes to water. We obviously have road networks, and we maintain them. And so we have a variety of infrastructure projects, and we have some new development that's coming to our community. And when that new development comes, you know, through negotiations and development agreements, we have growth pays for growth. So the developer would pay for the cost that it would take or the impact that they may have to that particular neighborhood.
Sure.
And so whether that be a traffic light or sizing up your piping or whatever that might be on a particular project, we'll have those discussions and negotiate that with a development agreement that would be approved by the city council.
Yep.
But we've also invested over the last couple of years $20 million in road improvements. But not only are we doing the road improvements that you see, we're also going underground and doing water main replacements. We're also having all of the other utilities that might have utilities under the roadway come in and say, hey, this is the opportunity. The road's going to be up. If you have to do any capital work, now's the time.
Sure.
We just passed an ordinance last year that says if you need to cut into one of our brand new roads, there's going to be a penalty to disincentivize you from doing that. From a brand new road all the way up to its 5th year in service, there's a penalty to cut into that. That incentivizes the other utilities to come in and make sure that they do their capital improvements while we have the roadway up. And
Sure.
if they can't do that, then they have to do compaction testing. They have to pay that fee. And it really is to try to disincentivize them from cutting into the road and then impacting the road network.
So standard practices for the most part.
Yeah, we're doing it all.
Where do you want to save money? You should save it now, not later.
Exactly.
Or try to, because it's going to cost more later.
100%. Yeah, we're doing all of the right things, making the right investments. The other thing we're doing is we're paying cash for it. And as we go, so we have a plan in place and we're executing that plan. And as you mentioned earlier, we have had no tax rate increases. We have no debt financing. So we're doing all of this through methodical planning and using taxpayer resources wisely so that we can invest not only in infrastructure, but all of the other services that we are providing to our citizens and the services that our residents are asking for, from parks and recreation, water, wastewater services, legal services, our police and fire. I mean, we have so many different services that we're offering. And so we have to balance all of the needs of our community with the resources that we have and find that equilibrium. And I think we've done a really good job doing that.
Yeah. You know, and I was trying to catch up, you know, in some of that hearing. So, kind of drill down into it, because I know this is some of the controversial side of things. You know, a couple council members, I'm not going to name names, but they had concerns about, you know, the water lines and some of the waterways in essence, but mostly the water lines, underground water pipes. Mm-hmm. What you know, they were saying that there's not enough money in the budget to start repairing some of that. Do you want to address that here? What's your objective, and how are you going to address that, and is it even an issue?
Yeah, so obviously we always want to make sure that fresh potable water is delivered to our homes and businesses, and we need to have it reliable. Mm-hmm. So the work that we've done during my time as mayor is we've built water redundancy. We only had one well when I first became mayor. We now have multiple well fields, so we have multiple sources that we're able to pull our Colorado River entitlement up for. We also have invested in water main replacements. So through the rate study that we did on our current rate structure for water and wastewater, we built in these capital improvement plans. So 3 years ago, we did $3 million. 2 years ago, we did $3 million as well. This budget year, we have $4.5 million. And so we have already pre-programmed in what the needs are going going to be.
So you've already, in essence, have forecasted based on third-party studies what that infrastructure replacement plan really looks like.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay, that's important to know.
It's very important, and you'll hear others say that it's not enough, or that there's water mains breaking every day. We do have a maintenance budget, and we have a maintenance plan as well. I mean, things happen, and when your home is 20 years old, you don't go re-plumb the entire home just because it's 20 years old.
Right.
But you bring out a professional, you assess what it's going to be, and then you make a plan to make sure that the infrastructure in your home is properly maintained. We do the same thing with the city, and the city has so many talented and dedicated team members that are experts in their field, and they've gone through and they have made these assessments, and this is what they do every single day. And they've assessed where the needs are. When it comes to water, we're a gravity-fed system, and so there's lots of pressures in our system because it's a gravity-fed system, and so we are going to have a number of breaks, but we understand what that is. We monitor it, and then we also plan for the replacement based on that, the age, and whatever the material is. So,
well, and I can kind of talk firsthand because during our hearing we were looking for approval on one of our projects. You guys, and this was earlier on when we had a pre-app meeting. A couple of pieces of that conversation was putting in a street light. Right. And of course, I'm always going to say, I don't want to spend the money. Right. But the traffic study warranted it, and I was okay with it. I did budget it prior to even buying the property. I had expected that. And we had kind of got word that the old traffic study did warrant a street light there. And so, or a stoplight. So we budgeted that, but during the conversation, during that hearing, we were listening to some of the other concerns about the water lines, around and adjacent to our property. And Public Works gentleman, came up and said, look, based on our studies, it didn't warrant, any upgrades or updates or any of that stuff to the water lines around the property. So what my takeaway for that is, if the studies are there, there's no point to just start tearing up something that's good, thinking it's bad. If the studies are there and it's good and it's still fine, then, allocate some funds other places, because there's always places you could, fix and do things. It's just never going to end. As a city grows, you're going to have old infrastructure. You're going to have to do that. I did appreciate that the Public Works, I think it was, I forget the gentleman's name, but he popped up there and said, hey, look, this is, we're good. We did our homework.
Yes.
And that says a lot about just kind of the calculation between, I would say, more the pedigree of the building department. I think that's really good that they're getting in on that. So, did you want to share anything on that?
Yeah, no, it's, infrastructure is important. We're focused on it. We have a plan. We've been executing the plan, and we'll continue to invest in infrastructure to ensure that the needs of our residents are met.
Yeah, no, I love it. Okay, so, water, let's talk about just water overall. One of the biggest concerns is just the Colorado River. Let's talk about that, because there's so much stuff online that you don't know what you can trust. And obviously, where you sit currently, you're going to, I think, know more than anybody else. So where are we at with water levels? Is there concerns from a state level? What are you thinking?
Yeah. So, when it comes to water, we only have one source, which is Colorado River water. And so there's not a day that goes by that you can't see a news story on the state of the river. There's a couple of different components. There's the hydrology of the river, that it's just not producing as much as has been allocated, both in the upper basin and the lower basin. And then there's also the needs of growth along both of those basins. The way that the law of the river was crafted and created is each state kind of works in conjunction. So the regionality is based on the state. So the state of Arizona, state of California, state of Nevada, they make up the lower basin. And then the upper basin states work from their state perspective, and then they work on the upper basin. And you're supposed to have 7.5 million acre feet of water allocated to the upper basin as well as the lower basin. But the river's not producing 15 million. And so that's really one of the biggest challenges. And what is occurring right now is the post-2026 guidelines. So the interim operating guidelines expire at the end of this water year. And that's the negotiation that's occurring. We have the lower basin is in unison, and then the upper basin is in unison. But the upper and lower basin are far apart from each other.
Yeah, because you're talking about California, Arizona, in essence.
Yeah, so California, Arizona, and Nevada, we're in lockstep. It's and then Wyoming, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado, they're in lockstep. But the upper basin is far away from the lower basin. And so that's really where the discussion is right now. And those are the discussions that we're having. The federal government does have the ability to make the call, as the Secretary of the Interior, as the water master, can tell us how we're going to operate. All of the scenarios that they've presented are not good for Arizona. And so we do need to have a negotiated deal among the states. The federal government prefers it's among the states. The states prefer it's among the states, and it would be great if we could stay out of court and and just get it done. And so for Lake Havasu City, though, specifically, we have enough water allocations we have 29,500 acre feet of water allocated. So we purchased those allocations. That's what our water rights entail. And we're using about 16,500 acre feet. So just a little more than half of our water entitlements we're currently using. But what we're doing is we're shifting the conversation to ensure that the on-water users, so the folks that only have access to the Colorado River water, because the water table is so close, no groundwater is available to us. We have no augmentation.
Right.
Lake Havasu City has been a leader in water conservation. We've accomplished that through a really engaged residence base, a rate strategy to conserve water, and then also turf abatement programs and the like. So we're actually using less water today with a much greater population than we were in the 1990s.
Oh.
So we can't be penalized for that, though.
Sure.
And that is what the potential downfall is that we have done such a great job of water conservation that we don't have a lot of low-hanging fruit for us to be able to address or conserve our way out of it.
We're not the big concern. There's other bigger concerns.
Correct.
Got it.
Yes.
Would you feel that there'll be, let's say the bleeding hasn't started too much? I know there's some big concerns. Obviously, there's studies that are done. I've kind of seen them as well. Do you feel that this will be a fight or a battle, or do you feel that there will be a solution if everyone pulls together? How do you feel? Do you feel like the energy is more positive than negative?
I feel that the potential for the energy to be more positive is there.
All right.
I think everyone understands what's at stake and what we have to do. I believe everyone wants to do what is in the best interest of the system and the hydrology and for their respective states and their regions. So I believe that we have all of the right components to get there. We're just not there yet, but I do believe that we will find success in a way that works for all the water users along the system. It's going to be difficult to get there, but I am confident that we'll get there.
And nothing's ever easy, is it?
No, it's not.
No, I know you're probably sitting in on a lot of those conversations. And so I really wanted to bring that up because, again, that's a big concern. It's one of my concerns too.
Yes.
And I figured, there's nobody better related to ask you. So, based on some of the conversations and studies that I've seen and read, it was, that there's plenty of water for the next 10, 15 years, given, kind of this momentum of how much is coming in compared to going and being spent, in essence, burned. It seems like things are holding up, but we kind of need to get some grace and maybe some weather grace or maybe obviously the federal government's going to have to step in here. But that is something that from what I was seeing, it seemed like it was okay.
Yeah, there are solutions out there, and there's other alternative water augmentation for other communities, just not the on-river communities. And that's why we're so concerned with making sure we protect our water security and our water future, because we don't have other options. Yeah. And so I do think that there's going to be a solution. I do think that the hydrology is changed. We need to realize it's changed, allocate accordingly. So there's lots of different components that we can take into account to ensure that not just Lake Havasu City has water security, but the entire basin has water security. Yep.
Okay, great. That's perfect. We'll move it on because we don't want to be too long, right? Okay, so let's talk about the bridge. So let's talk about that and kind of where you guys are on the design. I mean, obviously, I read those facts, but where you guys stand with it?
Yeah, so it's moving right along. We're, as you had mentioned earlier, we got $35.5 million in direct appropriation from the state of Arizona. We had Representative Biasucci leading the way, with Representative Cobb and Gillette helping, and Senator Borelli assisting to get that allocation to Lake Havasu City. We have the money in the bank, earning interest, so that's also earning additional money that we'll be able to put towards the project. But we are nearing our 100% design plans, hopefully by the end of the summer. We'll then be able to get the process in for permitting, and then we'll start the bridge, hopefully January of 2027, winter of 2027, be able to start building that bridge.
So for those of you that are, listening, you want to just share a little bit about the location of that bridge?
Sure. Yeah. So obviously, Lake Havasu City is known for the iconic world famous London Bridge. Our founder of our community, Mr. McCulloch, brought that to Lake Havasu City in 1972, really put us on the map. And it truly is the London Bridge that was sinking in the River Thames that you may have heard the nursery rhyme growing up.
Yep.
So it all the way in the 1970s, when Mr. McCulloch was building that bridge, there was always discussions that we were going to need a second bridge. And so there's lots of iterations over the years. And finally, we were able to come together as a group and really work to be able to get that appropriation. We now have that money, and the bridge is going to go just adjacent. So the London Bridge in its current area in the Bridgewater Channel. If you go just a little bit north, next to the Kingsview condos, at the Lake Havasu State Park, it'll go right across the channel at that area, and then we'll run parallel to Crazy Horse Campground, and then the road network will go right on to McCulloch and Beachcomber on the island.
Got it.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, I've seen some plans and renderings. I was kind of excited. I felt like it was. I don't live on the island, but I figured like that would be great for the residents and the visitors to be able to have a second way in and out.
Absolutely.
So and even for safety too.
Yes.
So I thought that was great. Okay, cool. So that was one of the things that I've had several people ask me, like, hey, make sure you ask Cal about the bridge. We want to know what's really going on. That type of thing. Okay. One of the other requests was kind of just supporting downtown, the growth, kind of the trying to beautify that whole area. Tell us a little bit about, is there a plan, what you got going on, kind of what's your hopes and dreams for that place?
Sure. So much work has already been done. And so that sometimes we forget to celebrate the successes that we've had. We're just getting ready and finishing the Main Street Commons, which is a downtown gathering space at Quarrio and McCulloch. It's an area that we can do events. First Fridays occur down there during Desert Storm. That's the kind of the hub of Desert Storm. So lots of great areas for a multi-use public gathering place, which is a huge investment that was made. There's reports that it's over budget and it is not a great investment downtown. But for every public dollar you invest in a downtown area, the private investment that will follow it is overwhelming in support of a downtown area. So I'm proud that we were able to create this downtown gathering space. It's been used by hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people of events over this last winter, and it wasn't even complete yet. So now that it's complete, we'll be seeing more people gathering there, which then also allows them to go use the shops and the eateries and the pubs. And if we look back 15 years ago, downtown was a place that you would drive down, you'd park your car in front of the business you were going to go in, do your business, come back out, get in the car, and then move to another spot and park in front of that business. Now our downtown is a much more walkable space where it's an entertainment hub where you can go to different bars and restaurants and pubs, eateries, attend events, go to specialty shopping boutiques. There's a lot more things that you can actually park your car once, walk the downtown and spend money, have a great time, and gather. So my vision is to continue that, continue with the beautification of the downtown area when it comes to facades and development in some of the open parcels, so that it continues to be a place that people want to gather and a place that people want to have connectivity as a community. And we're seeing the results of the work we've already done. And it really is quite an amazing transformation. And when you take a step back and look where we've gone or where we've come from to where we're going, just to see that continued progress work is going to be an amazing area for our downtown area.
Yeah. And I'm obviously tracking all the growth there, and without going into what I'm building over there, it just looks like, it looks like to me it's growing. Obviously, I've been coming out here for years. So every time I drive by this place, and even before I moved out here, there's a new place. There's a new place. And it was more the nightlife was starting to become bigger and bigger. Now it's like the spot to go to during the weekend, you know, and there's some really nice restaurants, that's the one thing we've always talked about out here is that we wish there was more restaurants, and you're starting to see some pop up here and there, and some existing restaurants are expanding, and you're starting to see that, which is amazing. Cause that's like the one thing think most people always talk about is we just want more restaurants.
Yes.
And there's a lot more going on downtown. So I just encourage everybody, give it a couple more years. I think you'll be to a point where you don't know where to go.
Yeah, and believe it or not, we generally might go just the same 5 restaurants that might be on our list, but we have so many restaurant options in Lake Havasu that so many great local families have invested their time and energy to build these great restaurants. And I would encourage residents to go grab the dining guide from Go Lake Havasu's Visitor Center and pick a new place when you're going to go next time.
Take a look.
Yeah, because there's so many great places.
Or even Google it. People are getting more sophisticated on the on social media, and then even through like Google ads and so forth.
Yes.
So a lot of stuff's popping up. It's actually pretty impressive. I mean, us, we're heavy on marketing, and I'm seeing a lot more. You know what I would say I like the most about just some of the things that are coming in? It's just there's a lot of people that are moving here that are, it's funny, they'll come out thinking they're going to retire, but then they don't want to retire, but they see a need and they're like, I've been doing this for 30 years. I can just pop something up here and have a little restaurant or what have you. And you're seeing, business growth here, and that's impressive.
Yes, it is.
You're seeing small regional banks pop up, which is important, right? You don't want to see them closing down. You want to see them coming into town.
Yes.
So that just kind of tells you that more wealth is coming into town as people are migrating and moving here for retirement. They're going to be focused on where they're parking their wealth. And if they're moving here to retire, that means they believe in it, and that means they're going to move their money here. So I'm watching a lot of those depositors as well. So I won't go too far into my what I'm doing or what have you, but I'm just love seeing the growth, and I think that'd be great for the downtown area, of course. So, and what I'm building over there, so it's going to be great. Okay, so tourism. Let's talk a little bit about tourism revenues. How many people are coming in? I always tell everybody that I think the majority of our cities making a lot of the money is through snowbirds. Some people look at Havasu or think of Havasu as the boating party scene. It's not really that anymore. Yes, you have that, but that's not really where the money's made.
No, we've been fortunate that we now are a year-round tourism destination. So people come for all sorts of different activities and events throughout the cooler months and into the winter. And then in the summer, we have, boaters and families and recreational users. But if you go to the Main Street area that we talked about just a few minutes ago, you will hear how slow the summer is from business after business after business. So it's very difficult for them to be able to continue to operate through the summer. But then winter comes and we have our winter visitors and all of the folks that want to get away from the cold country come and enjoy the great weather we have here. And it just changes. And so, it's tourism is very important. It's been the backbone of our economy since Mr. McCulloch first came here. That's actually what brought him here. Site 6 on the island was a respite center for World War II.
Oh, wow.
So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's
I heard they were bringing in some sort of artifact, though. Did that happen?
Yeah, the USS Arizona.
There we go.
Yeah, so we have a relic, a piece of the USS Arizona that was bombed in Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Is here in Lake Havasu.
Oh, cool.
It was given by the Department of Navy to the Marine Corps League Detachment 757, and we're building a monument for it right now.
I heard about that.
Yeah, London Bridge Beach. If you're out in the Channel area, take a look. It's amazing. It's going to be the style of Washington, D.C., where it's going to be very impressive. It's going to name all 1,177 service members that passed away during the bombing. It's going to be a great,
that's pretty cool.
Great
that's
memorial.
A big deal.
Huge.
And this is a big military area.
Yes.
So that's really cool to see that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and our roots date back to it with, again, Site 6 being that respite center for World War II. And so tourism has always been the gateway for economic development.
Sure.
People come, they visit, you shared your story about just what a special place Lake Havasu City is, and visitors get that experience time and time again. Go home and say, hey, I'm moving there. There's something special about that place, and they're going to invest and move their business here, relocate their family here. So tourism is that gateway, but it also allows us from a municipal standpoint is we're importing new dollars. So we're able to do things in our community using sales tax collections from the visitors that come here. And so we're able to keep our tax base low for our residents that live here because we're able to augment it through tourism. Sometimes I hear people say, we just focus on tourism. And I think they hear those words, but we don't invest any money in tourism. We're importing that money that our visitors are bringing us, and then we're able to pay for our police and fire and parks and roads and all of the things that we want.
Big deal.
Without having to use local tax dollars or raise taxes of the residents that live here.
So the marketing's word of mouth.
Yes, it absolutely is. And then they get to be engaged with the great experience that they receive when they visit here. And
I couldn't tell you how many people that I've brought out here or hosted that have never been here that are like, I can understand why this is a very special place. And several of them that have moved here in the last couple of years.
Yes.
And because of it, or had a second home or what have you. But if anybody's that's listening hasn't been here, you're missing out. You need to come and visit. You'll understand why.
Yeah. Our visitor study, when we did it the first time, we were working with a consultant, and the number one reason why people chose Lake Havasu was the people. And they were so blown away by that.
You know, it's funny. That is so true.
Yeah.
You know, I talk about, even when I go to Nashville, one of the things I love is just the people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a small town in some parts of Nashville. And that's how I feel when I'm here. And I really have met some amazing people here in Lake Havasu. And I just feel that there's a lot more authenticity here, especially in some of the business side of things, at least the people I'm doing business with, is it's been fruitful for us. And that's why I think we just want to stick around. It's the concept. You just want to be around good people.
Yes.
You know, you get tired of putting on the mask,
Yes.
which is a segment of ours. And, you know, you get to a point where, you know, life's tough enough. If you can be around good people and everybody's kind of in the same lane with the same mindset, that's what you're going to get when you come out here. Yeah. I love it. Okay, so tourism revenue. Do you know numbers on revenue? How many people are coming out here? What do those numbers look like?
Sure. Yes, we have about 1 million visitors a year that come to Lake Havasu over on an annual basis. The London Bridge is the number 2 tourist attraction in the state of Arizona outside the Grand Canyon.
I don't see any Asians with cameras around their neck anymore.
Oh, you know, they might make their way back out.
I see them every once in a while, 3 years back.
Yeah, those bus routes, the tour buses are they change their routes all the time. But
Sure.
So we have over 6,000 people are directly and indirectly employed by tourism. We generate on sales tax perspective, just on our 1% food and beverage tax and our 3% bed tax, about $4.2 million a year. That's on top of the 2% city sales tax that visitors may be paying. So it's a significant impact to Lake Havasu City and allows us that ability to have really great experiences. So the quality of life for our residents, we get to enjoy all of the services we have today with a low tax rate, but we also have a ton of restaurants. Again, many people only choose the same 5 to go to, but there's so many options that they can choose from.
There's a lot more than I thought there was just recently too.
Yeah,
I'm starting to figure that out.
A whole bunch of them. Then we also have these really amazing events that you can choose to go to or not choose to go to. I mean, every weekend there's something going on in Lake Havasu.
That's true.
And it's supported by not only our residents, but also visitors. But without the visitor component, the opportunities would not be there for our residents to enjoy the events that we have. So, tourism does play a vital role in our economy. It also plays a vital role in the quality of life that our residents are able to get. And then it also has a fiscal impact to our residents as well.
What do you think what's our migration look like as well? How many people are you seeing move here per year?
Yeah, so our growth rate right now in our citizen-led general plan that was just approved this year, it'll go to the voters in November for ratification, anticipates our growth rate between 0.7% and 1%. So it seems like we have a lot of growth, a lot of influx, but the actual growth rate has been very moderate.
Yeah.
It's been very sustained and something that we've been able to react to. So the plans that we talked about earlier, we're able to actually execute plans and put plans in place to ensure that the growth it minimally impacts our current residents, but certainly does not impact them negatively from a financial standpoint, where, again, growth is paying for growth, and that is not on the backs of our taxpayers.
Got it. Well, as far as the from a development revenue, too, I mean, we don't need to talk about percentages as far as what's generated in revenue between tourism and development, but what are you foreseeing as far as? I mean, there's a lot of permits being pulled for building. I mean, there is a lot, and obviously, one of my really good friends is a big broker here, and he's just moving units like you're crazy. I mean,
Yes.
People have moved out here to build their real estate business because there's just so many trades. What do you foresee on continued development? I don't see it slowing down personally anytime soon. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so Lake Havasu City is uniquely positioned, surrounded by federal lands, state trust lands, and then we also have wildlife refuge as well. So we have a limited amount of land within the city limits. Now, in the outskirts, there's some additional land that's still available beyond what we have available in Lake Havasu, but we're very pro-business. We're very open to doing business. We're easy to do business with. So we'll continue to have that type of relationship where people want to do business with Lake Havasu City. The way that I look at it is that the more housing opportunities that we have available for our residents creates opportunities for our residents to make choices. It stabilizes the pricing, and then gives our citizens the opportunity to make a choice that works best for their family. So, not everyone's going to want to live in a condo or an apartment, and not everyone wants to live in a single-family residential home or residential estates. I mean,
Right.
so there's options for everybody, and as we have more units come online, it then creates additional opportunities where whoever's moving from where they're at now into one of the new spaces, now that frees up a dwelling there for a potential family or resident. So, I think we have a good environment for development, but again, we're been fortunate to have developers that are either born and raised in Lake Havasu City or came to Lake Havasu City and understand the importance of paying their own way.
For sure.
And balancing what they're bringing to the community with what the community already is. And so we've been fortunate for that, and I foresee that to continue to occur. I say all of those things, but you don't just happen by Lake Havasu. I mean, you have to make a plan to come here, and so people that are choosing to do business in Lake Havasu City want to be here. Just like the residents that chose to live here want to be here as well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't foresee it slowing down anytime soon. I have people that are, coming out here just to kind of do the lake life or snowbird life. They're, thinking about opening up a plumbing business here or trying to expand their business from California here. You're just seeing a lot of growth, and those relationships are monetizing quite a bit. So it just seems that a lot of other trades are seeing the growth and the ability to still grow. And these are some sophisticated guys. These guys have $100 million companies, and they're sitting out there going, "Hey, I can probably expand out there in Lake Havasu." That's how much you guys really have going on. That's
Absolutely.
Impressive.
It really is, and we could use help in all of those areas. Veterinarians, doctors, the trades, so plumbing, HVAC, electrical. I mean, all of those things we have a market for folks to come into. We have great local contractors already, but we do have demand that definitely could be utilized if we had more services to offer to our residents.
The only thing that's hard is getting cost of logistics. Getting your materials out here is a little more expensive than most places, but it is what it is. You got to budget for it, right? You got to be smart about it. Okay, so let's move on to the next, because I want to try to keep you in there in that hour, but we may go a little longer because this conversation seems to be going on the right track. Okay, so let's talk about healthcare. Obviously that's every boomer's focus here coming up. Cost of living, taxes, healthcare. Let's start about healthcare. What's kind of going on here? By the way, I didn't get a chance to talk to the owner of the mall and that surgery center. Do you have any information on what happened with that fire?
Yeah, so the fire that occurred this weekend did impact operations. So they're working through that now. Our fire department was able to handle it very quickly. No one was hurt
That's important
for the first responders or on the property, and so they're working through it. And certainly our thoughts go out to them because they have a huge investment out there that has been impacted for it. But
yeah, that's a heck of a surgery center. I went through it, but right when he completed it, and I was really impressed what kind of technology was in it. That made me open my eyes even further about what's going on here in the growth of Havasu. But that type of technology in healthcare was a huge factor as to why I'm continuing to move forward on what I'm doing here.
Yes, no, they've done a great job expanding that surgery center out there. We're hopeful they're going to get it back online fairly quickly and can get back up and running. But, healthcare is a concern around the nation to ensure that residents in any community have access to good quality care that's timely. And that is a struggle for not only our community, but others. Some of the successes that we've had is we worked with the VA, and they were able to expand from a 5,500 square foot facility to a 23,000 square foot facility here in Lake Havasu City in the last couple of years that now brings additional specialties. So our veterans now have access to more care through the VA.
That's important.
So important.
Very important. Yep.
And the slots that they may have been taking at other medical providers in our community now have opened up for other residents to be able to use those slots as the veterans are using the VA more because they have more opportunity.
Sure.
The hospital has really done a good job over the years of pivoting based on the needs of what our residents have.
Sure.
So we have, a great cath lab. We're able to do, good work when it comes to knee replacements and orthopedics and the like. The surgery center that we just talked about at Convergence Health out at the mall. Those are all been investments, private investments, with the exception of the VA, that's public, but the others are private investments of people investing in our community on the healthcare front. But there's still more to do. So we need to attract, more providers. We need to attract more options for our residents. And as we're seeing some of the growth and some of the shift that we talked about earlier, we'll be able to start attracting it. But when we look at healthcare professionals, they have to choose to want to live in a community. And they're going to choose a community that is dynamic and vibrant and has opportunities for their family. So it's a great partnership with the educational opportunities within a community, the quality of life opportunities, the temperament of a community. So that's a full package for them to say, yes, I'm going to move here and I'm going to invest here because, any of those providers would make a really great living in Lake Havasu City because the need is so great.
Right.
But all of those other factors have to align as well.
Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. And I'm just going to get right into it. We hear kind of on the other side of the coin is this healthcare is not as good here, but they're focusing on it, which is always important because, to be candid, we can always talk about, anything really that's not great. And there's always room for improvement, I haven't experienced anything on a negative side. My family's been taken care of since they've been here. I haven't seen or met somebody that's had a really bad experience. You just kind of hear the drama. So sometimes you don't ever really, just trust what you hear, right?
Sure.
Kind of thing. A lot of people say bad things about good people and you're like, hey, that's not true, know? But, I think healthcare is always kind of a growing feature that we always want to see becoming a part of the growth of any city. It's just the way the world is going. It is an absolute need. Fastest growing industry in the world, just given the baby boomers and the retirement and kind of how large that generation is. When I was I'll share a little story on this, just kind of break it up a little bit. But when I moved to Nashville. In 2020, I really learned about the startup capital being deployed into Nashville for more startup capital, for startups for healthcare. So a lot of stuff for pharmaceuticals down to medical devices, technology, software, systems, compliance, right? The whole nine yards. But there's more capital getting dumped into medical technology than ever before. And Nashville was a hub of that. So I've had just random meetings, kind of sitting at the bar, having a nice dinner, and ended up sitting down to a CEO of a healthcare provider or some sort of CEO of a medical device company that's there for an event or convention. And we dive into what they're doing all the way down to stuff that's like, if you have an injury, it kind of looks like skin that goes over the skin and kind of, kind of recovers your skin quite a bit, all the way down to burn victims. I mean, just some crazy technology that it's like stuff that you'd see on like G.I. Joe back in the day kind of thing, Yes. But those are what's wild is that through some of my conversations with some of the physicians here and some of the new, I would say some of the guys that are just coming out of college or they're looking at more of the holistic side of health, they're coming out here and they're moving out here or having second homes here because they love being here, but they're looking at bringing that technology and some of that spin into the city, which I think is great. And what some of these they're focused on was what it costs to get care. I loved that. One of the big things that I think some of these startups have focused on is the cost of care. And as we all know, when you retire, you're on a budget.
Yes.
And, cost of living has gone up across the board. So for these type of, I'd say the pedigree of those providers or someone providing that type of service coming into the city to try to focus on cost for care, I thought was a really cool thing to make it like a focal point. And so we're seeing a lot of guys came out to us, hey, we're looking for a building out here. This is what we're going to do. We don't want anybody to know about it, but is there a building available, or connect us to your broker? So there's some stuff going on. I haven't really shared a lot about it, but I'm seeing some groups that are just very, very focused on that side of things, that are really looking at opening up a practice here.
That's amazing. Yeah. The more opportunity we can get, and the technological advances that we're going to see just in the next 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years in the medical field will drive down costs and increase accessibility. And that's needed all across the nation.
100%.
Yeah, but
to
really
be able to see little old Lake Havasu starting to get that type of energy, though, that's what I love about it, is because everyone looks at Havasu as kind of like, they don't have a lot, or, they're missing this or missing that. But when you look in deeper, if it's not here yet, it's about to, that kind of thing. And especially with healthcare, I thought it was just really cool. And I'm hovering around that space because a lot of the projects I was involved in outside of Havasu was really, the data points were around healthcare and growth, and so on and so forth. So it's been something that I've just had in my arsenal that I've always wanted to keep an eye on. So, okay, great. Is there anything else you want to talk about on the healthcare side? Okay, so let's talk about, which is kind of close to my heart, and I can go on tangents forever on this, but the airport.
Yes.
Let's talk about the airport. That has been, I think, kind of a little bit of a bleeding ulcer for many years. I've been approached by a couple of groups. I met with a couple of the old airport managers that wanted us to come up with a plan to help them build hangars. There was, an RFP, I believe, that was 250,000 square feet of hangars that are on the south side there. Right before they sold the FBOs, we were approached to look at it from just kind of a budgeting side, private capital coming in and developing this thing. And we actually came up with a detailed budget that showed kind of an additional revenue stream for the city. We just haven't had a chance to in essence, pitch it. But I also know it's kind of I kind of sit back and let everyone kind of figure it out. And if they want my advice, or, you have an idea, then maybe I can throw it out there. But let's talk about just kind of the pros and cons of the airport, what's happening. I think a lot of people are just trying to see that thing grow and expand. We all know that there's been, just a lot of unique situations why it has not, and I will just leave it at that. But what's new with the airport? Is there anything coming? Are we going to build any more hangars? Is there more FBOs? What's going on?
Yeah, so there's a lot of changes that are happening out at the airport. And, the Lake Havasu Municipal Airport is a hub of economic activity. Mm-hmm. Everybody in Lake Havasu City is impacted by that airport, whether they know it or not. Mm-hmm. If they got a package from Amazon today, or a prescription, or if they are on the donor list, they used that airport today. So there's lots of opportunity that it already is providing to our city, but there's a lot more that it can do. And there's some deficiencies when it comes to hangar space for general aviation users. There's also deficiencies in the capacity of the airport, commercial air service, or an option for residents to be able to get to some major hub. We've been working on those fronts for many years. Back in prior to 2010, we had commercial air service through America West at the time, or their affiliate. We had 5 or 6 flights round trip daily to Phoenix. But after we hit the 2010 census, we lost the essential air service grant opportunity because we were over 50,000 residents. And so those were basically subsidies or grants that offset the expenses for the airlines to provide air service to rural communities. Then several years ago, the Laughlin Bullhead International Airport, which is just about an hour to the north of us, ran a test with American Airlines. When they did that, it was not successful. And because of that, it's kind of regionally put a black eye on us, but we're still working through that.
Yep.
Excuse me. But the airport has opportunity. We have a new airport manager. So we're working on opportunities for expansion when it comes to hangar and hangar development, whether that be private investment, as you mentioned, public investment, which we do have money in our CIP budget for that, or working together in a public-private partnership. So we've set ourselves up from a policy standpoint to have all of the options available because we know it's a priority for our community. And we've also been having discussions for quite some time with some of the airlines to be able to offer some sort of commercial air service to our communities. A lot of discussions about bringing airlines in, or bringing in like JXS, excuse me,
Yep.
into the airline. We've had multiple conversations with them. So there's lots of different discussions that are going on, but aviation is changing as a whole. Back in prior to 2010, the jets that flew through were 19 passenger. Now the minimum is 49 passenger. And so that's a lot of people to move out of Lake Havasu City on a flight that's full on a daily basis, or even twice or three times a week, especially when you're only a couple hours away from a major metropolitan airport.
Yeah.
And so are residents willing to pay $500 more to fly out of here? Or would they say, I'm just going to drive to Las Vegas or to Phoenix and fly out of there and save $500?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the value proposition that we're having to work through, but we are working through it. I think that, again, from a policy standpoint, we have ourselves positioned in a way that we can have all of the conversations to actually achieve what we need to achieve out there, which is additional hangar space for general aviation, also some economic development opportunity from the aviation perspective that needs to be out at the airport, and then also some sort of commercial type air service, and that might just be a 6-pack or an 8-pack where they take you to an FBO or a fixed space operator in Southern California or in Phoenix, and then you drive over to the terminal and you go through TSA at that point. So lots of different opportunities and ways that we can look at this. And we're anyone that wants to talk aviation or airport, I take every phone call, I sit in every meeting because it's so important. When I first got on council, I was the council liaison as the airport advisory board member for the 4 years I was a council member before I became mayor. So I have a passion for aviation and aviation uses from an economic development standpoint, and from a resident's perspective of having the option to be able to get air service and be able to go explore the world. So definitely a focus of ours, and definitely we'll see some movement, whether, again, it's private investment, public investment, or some sort of a partnership in between.
Got it. Yeah. And my opinion may not matter too much, but just the way I'm looking at it is that airport, as you just mentioned in the beginning, it has such an impact on the community here. And I'd love to see it. And of course, I'm a little biased because I have projects over there. So anytime there's growth in any area that I'm developing, it helps us. But without that, even being a factor, looking at the people that are coming here, healthcare side even, and a lot of the residents would love to see, an expansion there, just more hangars. If we can get more hangars over there, I think more people would buy planes and kind of get in and out of there, generate more revenue for both the city and just the city really more than anything. Even from businesses, I think will benefit from it as well. Yeah, I would love to see that be kind of a little bit more on the forefront too. Of being able to kind of get that thing built out. I'm in that space, so of course I'm going to be a little biased. So forgive me, but yeah, I think that there's so much growth opportunity there. You have the space, but again, when I was looking at it, for example, some of that, you'd have to bring in about $5 or $6 million of infrastructure just to build your very first hangar on the south side there. You can build some stuff on the north side. I've engaged with our architect to design some stuff, but that south side, it's going to be really hard. Like you had Velocity, a private equity firm that bought the FBOs over there, right? And so you're starting to see PE firms starting coming in. Obviously, that's a big play overall as a financial strategy and given the marketplace. But when you're starting to see that type of capital get dumped in, that's where you're going to need it. The institutional groups are just bottlenecking big time because people are pulling money out of institutions and locking them up into smaller fund managers, but very strategic on their investment strategies. The airport world is really going to get a lot of private capital. So if you guys, let's say you and the city were able to pull together and come up with a plan, you guys will not have a shortage of capital. And we know of some people that came out here with G650s and going, hey, I'm going to write a check for the whole thing. Let's rock. That's how many people love this area, believe in this area, but those are the type of people that are also coming here. And so, if you guys were able to all figure it out, I think you guys would be more than fine. I don't think there's any risk in expanding that, in my opinion. And it generates a lot of revenue too for the city, which, looking at the budget, and there's always room for improvement, but I think that'll be a big revenue source for you guys in 5 years or so. Yeah, no,
I couldn't agree more. And that's why we have ourselves set up with the money in the budget for us to be able to make moves.
I saw that.
when private equity money becomes available and with partnerships. But as you had mentioned, we have had a lot of shifts there that have delayed what our investments could be. With the sale of Velocity, there was a holdup during that process. We've had some leadership changes from the city's team at the airport. So there's just been some shifts there that have delayed things in a way that the movement is not what we would all like it to be, but we're now in a position with all the right players at the right time with the right resources available to be able to make moves.
Yeah, the stars all need to align.
Yes.
That's true. And if anybody understands delays, it's me.
Yes. Yes.
And it's true. You really kind of have to have everything aligned. Otherwise, it just really won't work. And, capital meets good management. And that's kind of how you got to hover around it. So, okay, you know what, Cal? Well, I really appreciate the time. I think we're right at what we need to be. Let's go into anything else you want this community to know more about you, or kind of your overall goal. Mind you, this will be pushed out to as much as we can to the community. And I'll kind of sum it up on my side. This was just more of a question and answer thing. I'm non-biased. I just want to make sure that I am making good decisions for my clients and myself and my family. I love the town. So obviously I have a vested interest in it. I appreciate your time and all the support you've given me. You've really showed up for me. And I forever thank you for that as well. So, but with that said, what else do you want this community to know about you, or, you want to just kind of end with?
Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity to, kind of share my vision and go over some of what I've done and what we'll continue to do. I've been and had the honor to serve as mayor for 8 years now. This is my home. My grandparents moved here in 1979. My family all lives here. This is a special place to me. I've laid down my roots and built my family here. So I am a person that shows up the same every single day. So I have a proven leadership that I am here to work for the residents. We take issues that are of need to our residents and we just address them. We just get things done. Sometimes we forget to celebrate because I'm just focused on the work. And so we get it done and we move on to the next. But this community is worth it. The residents are worth it. It's been an honor to be able to serve. And I would like to ask for our residents' vote on July 21st to vote for me for mayor for a third term, to continue to do really just the great work that we've been doing, be the voice of the residents. I got involved in politics, local politics, really at a time where we were having discussions about quality of life and things I thought were just like common sense and just, well, of course that would happen. And the conversation quickly turned to how are we going to get our local elected officials to come on board? And I thought, that seems so crazy that we're talking about that when there's so many great things that can occur. I said, I'll run and I'll be that voice of reason, that voice of common sense. And I've delivered on that. I have been accessible and that voice of reason and common sense. And I like to continue to do that. And
I appreciate that. And to be candid, I always go off of my own experiences. You and I talked when we met, right, a few days ago about the negativity online and, orchards or whatever. I don't even remember. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Orchards or orchards. I don't even know. It's so retarded sometimes. Some of these guys post on there. But, there's so much negativity out there, and you mentioned it. It's across kind of every platform in the county. Mm-hmm. And I just try to encourage people, don't listen to what anybody else says. There's usually an agenda there. Go off of your own experience. And I think that's done well for me, in many, many ways in my life. And I feel like we've made more good decisions. We have bad decisions. And that's one big component for me. And, for since I've been here, and you've been obviously in office, we've seen the city grow. I think it's undeniable. You kind of had to hold the ball up when the pandemic hit. Quick fact about us too, and I'll try to I'll kind of sum it up here. I had a president of my company a while ago. He was the mayor of a Southern California city, and he was the mayor during 2008, the market crash. And it was hard. He said there was just a lot of people hurting. I mean, it was just a really unique time. And the thing I liked about him the most was his heart. I got to know him more on a personal space. Obviously, he's worked for me for many years. And I still stay in touch with him to this day. But he just had a big heart. And I think anybody who goes into service has to have a heart for it, because, shots are fired all the time. You are not like, it's like being, unfortunately, it's like being a police officer in some cities. You're just hated, and I just think that's really unfortunate. Yeah. And I think when you kind of look back as to why are people getting more involved into politics, I think most people don't go in there with ill intent. I think 99% of the time they go in there with positive and, intent and trying to fix. It's like the same concept as nobody gets, like during marriage, when you go get married, nobody gets up in front of God and family and says, I forever dedicate myself to you, and then all of a sudden you get a divorce. No one goes up there and gets married with the intent of getting a divorce kind of thing, Okay. So I think just everybody goes into that space really trying to help. And so that's how I look at the people. I respect that. Same like thing with teachers and firefighters and police officers, just to have that heart, going into it. So anyways, with that said, I really appreciate your time. You've done well for me, and I really do appreciate it. I think you've done well for the community. And, I'm going to interview, Dave Johnson. I'm going to give him a chance to speak his kind of what his goals are and know more about him as well. And I don't know much about the gentleman. I just know he's been out here for 100 years, and he's got a lot of friends, a lot of connections, but I don't know what he can do for us or for the city. And I'm just looking forward to seeing what his goals are. So we'll record him tomorrow and get this out concurrently, so everybody knows this wasn't one side or the other, and go from there. So, well, thank you very much. And I want you to have a great evening and good luck.
Thank you.
Great.